Okay, so welcome back to my new tutorial on weather application. So this tutorial, we are going to consume a request from an API. So let's check the, so I'm at the open weather map, and this API endpoint takes a city name and then the API key. Okay, so you can pass in either the city name, the state code, and then the API key. Okay, but I'm going to use the first one here. So we're going to pass in the city name and then the API key. And this is going to return a JSON response. Okay, so this is an example of the JSON response, the coordinates, the weather, whether it's clear, and the ID, and then there's another part called main, and this main takes a temperature, feels like temp min, temp max, pressure, and then the humidity. Okay, and the speed, wind, and visibility and stuff like that. And then the name, you can also see the name, time zone, and stuff like that. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be interested in the main parts and then maybe the name. Okay, all other fields, I'm going to ignore them. Okay, so let's jump right into the IDE. I'm going to create a new directory, which I'm going to call weather app. And inside the weather app, I'm going to create a new Go file, which I'm going to call main. Okay. Once I do that, I'm going to switch into this directory. So the directory that I want to switch into is YouTube tutorials. CD YouTube tutorials, and then I'm going to enter into our weather app. So now I'm going to install two packages, which I'm going to call, okay, let's install the Go mod first. So it's go mod init weather app. I'm going to say go mod tidy. And then I'm going to say go get Fiverr v2. It's been added. I'm going to install go get github.com/joho go.env. So that is also added. So if we come here, you see the go mod.mod. We have all these two dependencies, and then the go sum with all the others. Okay. So I'm going to add a new secret. A new secret where I'm going to store my API key. Okay, so I'm just going to paste this in. I'm not going to show it to you, but I'm just going to paste it in. Okay. But Okay, so I can show it to you, but after this video, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to remove it from the open weather map so that nobody can reuse this code. Okay, so once I do that, we can go back into our main file. So I'm going to start with declaring some few method and variables. So I'm going to say const, and then I'm going to say city. So I'm going to say, let's say Dallas. I'm going to declare a method which I'm going to call func get env, which I'm going to pass in the key of type string, and this returns a string. I'm going to say return os dot get env, and then we pass in the key. Okay, so that is all we need. And then I'm also going to declare another method which I'm going to call func load env. It doesn't take any arguments, so I'm going to say go dot, then I'm going to say go.env load. I'm going to pass in our .env file, this file which contains our API key, and this method returns an error, so we're going to handle that error, and then we say if error is not equal to null, we want to log this fatal, and then we're going to say error loading .env file. Okay, so that is all to it. And then I'm going to declare struct weather struct. I'm going to call it, it's a type. I'm going to call it weather response. I'm going to pass in the fields, which is name, is of type string, and then of JSON type name. And I'm going to pass in main, call it main. It's also of type JSON. Okay, and this main, we are yet to declare this main. So I'm going to say it's also of type so we're going to call it main, and this main is coming from our JSON weather response, which I showed you earlier. We're going to pass in all the fields. We have fields like temp, which is temperature. So we're gonna, it's a float 64. And then we pass in fields like also float 64. And then we say temp, mean the minimum temperature, also a float JSON type, temp max float 64, also of type JSON. And then we're gonna extract also the pressure of float 64. And then the final one, humidity of float 64 and also of type JSON. Okay, so that is all. You see, we're calling this main struct inside the weather response struct. Okay, and yeah, so I think that is all. So what I can do now is to load env. Once I do that, I can also say API key is equal to get env, and then we pass in the key, which is API key. Okay. Now we're going to pass in the string. This long string. This long string. Okay, and then we append the city name and then the API key to it. So I'm just gonna paste the entire URL in, and I'll show you what it means. So I'm gonna paste in the entire URL. So this is the entire URL. So we're concatenating everything to the city, which we declared up here, which is static, it's not dynamic. And then we're also adding in the API key. And then this 10 unit is equal to metric is able to convert the temperature from Kelvin to degrees Celsius. Okay, because we don't want to write any method to convert from Kelvin to degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. We pass in this unit is equal to metric. Okay. So now we continue by saying HTTP get, and then we pass in the URL, and this is going to return a response and then an error. Okay. So we need to handle this error. So if this error is not equal to nil, we want to log this as fatal error. Okay. And then we're going to use IO-util package. We're going to say IO-util read all, and then we pass in response.body. And this is also going to return JSON bytes and then an error. Okay. Now we can defer, we can do this defer func, and then we pass in the response.body.close. Okay, this is going to return an error. Let's call it an E. And then we handle this error and say log.fatal E. So we're going to close the response body, but we're going to defer it for future. Okay. Now we say var, this is going to be a variable weather response. Then we pass in the struct weather response. And then we're going to unmarshal this JSON bytes. Okay. So we say JSON unmarshal, and that takes a byte of data and then an interface. So we're going to pass in JSON bytes as well as a pointer to our weather response variable. And this is going to return an error. So let's handle this error too. We're going to log this ER. Once we do that, we can now print response. we're going to say fmt dot println. Okay, let's do printf instead of println. So we're gonna say percentage plus v, and then a new line, the value, a new line, and then we pass in weather response. Okay, so let's run this and see what we get. Okay, so as you can see, we have the name and then the main, which contains the temperature. It feels like the temp mean, temp max, pressure, and then the humidity. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to serve this to an endpoint, API endpoint. Okay, so that's the main reason why we decided to install Viber. Okay, Viber. I'm going to make use of it, but it doesn't look like it's shown here. But we want to serve this into an endpoint. So what we can do here is going to initialize Viber. Okay. So I'm going to say app Viber dot new, and then we don't pass in any okay, so that is how you do it. App fiber.new. Okay, and then you assign it to this variable app. Now we can come down here. Okay, so let me show you something before we move on. So if I want to print the individual values from this response, what I can do is can say fmt println, and then I can say temperature is, and then I'm gonna say weather response dot main dot temp. Okay, so let's run this and see what we get. Okay, it's defined but no use, so let me comment it out. So as you can see, it prints temperature is this. So if I also want to print main dot something else, let's say the humidity, this is how I'm going to do it. Anything else, you can also print the name. Okay, weather response dot name. So we can do all those printouts, but we are not interested in that. So we want to use Fiber API. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to comment out this and say app.get. Okay, so let me pass this thing in. github.com/fiber. Okay, and then we pass in v2. Okay, so this is the URL for Fiber2, Fiber v2. Okay, so it looks like this one is happy now. And then now we can pass in the endpoint. So I'm going to call it /API/ v2/weather. So that is going to be our endpoint. And then we pass in func, and this func takes fiber.ctx and returns an error. Okay. So now let's declare a map of string. And then, so this map is going to be a key value pair. Okay. And I'm going to try something out first. So let's see if this is going to work. So I'm going to say weather response. Okay, let me see. ctx dot status, which is 200 dot JSON. Then I'm going to say weather response. So I'm going to say return this. Okay. So let's see if this is going to work, but I can do it differently, but I'm just going to try to test this and see if this is going to work. App.listen, and then we pass in the port number at 3000. Okay, so let's run this and see. Okay, so the application is running on this port. Okay, so let's go. All right. Okay, so it looks like it works. Okay, so as you can see, the temperature and then the name, how it feels like now, the temperature mean, temperature max, the pressure, and then the humidity. Okay, so if I want to do it raw, this is how you see it, pretty. So this is how you see it. And in the form of a JSON, you can see this is the name of the city. So if I change the city, for instance, and rerun the application, if I change it to, let's say, Houston, okay, and rerun the application, you see it changed, the temperature changed. So let's see. See, the temperature at Dallas is 32.6, but in Houston is 30.4. Okay, so we're going to refresh this. You can see the temperature at Houston, Texas is 30.4 degrees Celsius, and humidity is 45. Okay, so that is how you can use Fiber to consume this JSON response. Okay, so what we can also do is we can push this application to, we can Dockerize this application, okay, and then push it to Docker Hub, and then use Kubernetes to deploy it. So in our next video, I'm going to show you how you can create your Docker file. You can Dockerize this weather application, and then you push it to Docker Hub, and then consume the image from Docker Hub inside your Kubernetes for deployment. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.